move old business if we could. Old business is Barre Reservoir Dam, discussion of a ballot question. And John, I would ask you to sort of bring us up to speed on where we are with suggestion of utilizing a ballot in order to determine the
Sure.
situation that we have with the.
Yep, and I know there's going to be, it's on the agenda later for planning board, so we wanted to bring this up to the front of the meeting. This is more about the question than the merits of either side of the argument. So there is a copy of a revised one based on a good bit of feedback that was received both through email, conversations, and even through Facebook, some of the comments on there. The biggest structural difference is that it really focuses first and foremost on the yes. Now it's focusing on the fact that it's the town taking possession of the dam, and the no is that it's the town not taking possession of the dam, and the results of those decisions. So it kind of clarifies why this is a yes and why this is a no, what the structural changes to the town is more so than the structural changes of the dam. Because that is essentially what it's going forward with. I just really want to reiterate that this is for us to provide an opinion to the Office of Dam Safety. It's not binding on our end, it's not binding on their end. So the critical thing here is if, the vote of the town is to say no, we want it to be turned back into a river. If the engineers for this project then do more studies based on that and come back and say you can't do that because of X, Y, and Z, then the dam would have to be, retained and repaired. So there's different analyses that they will do based on whether we say yes or no to verify that those options are a proper way to go. But we need to give them an initial direction to go in. And that is the intention of this, not to solidly put us in the camp, not to in any way bind us. The other thing that could come up, we could say the town votes yes, we do want to go forward in saving the dam, and then at town meeting, there could be a complete rejection of any funds to do that, and we might have to change course. So that's part of why this is a non-binding question. Yep.
Can I come up a minute?
Sure.
Thank you. Robert Kane, 760 Williamsville Road. I just read your draft, John. Nice work. Couple of questions on it, though.
Yeah.
I noticed there wasn't really any information. Maybe this will be covered later in the meeting. When are the voter guides going to be sent out?
So,
and is there a deadline? And third, how many words for each side will be in the voter guide? To sort of limit it so it can be worked into an understanding format.
Yep.
Yep.
Instead of 1,000 words or something. I thought if that was added. And then I have some recommendations for myself, because I've done a lot of research on this. And basically, rather than take up the time that it'll take for 2 pages, I'd just like to leave them with the board.
is this a recommendation for the voter guide?
Yes,
Okay.
specifically for the voter guide, and
Yeah.
I'm convinced the importance of a hydraulogist is very important.
So as far as the voter guide goes, I started putting together some information, particularly on the side of keeping it, just because you've sent me a bunch.
Yeah.
So this is going to save a lot of work on that.
Okay.
And then I'm going to try and get information from both sides to try and compose it in a way that it's
Yeah.
consistent between both of them. Do you know what our deadline is on that part?
Town clerk will know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll need to find out what exactly the deadline is for that. But
Is there a
Thank you,
deadline
sir.
for voter guideline?
I
I
that's
think that's just a supplemental municipal option.
yeah. So I'm not sure.
Thank you, Mark.
But that's what we need to
Thank you,
find out is the voter guide portion of it.
Sandy?
Um,
Tammy, of course.
Mr. Kane, if, I've been trying to dig along with DEP and others regarding a
Yes, ma'am.
hydrologist.
Yes.
And is there a hydrologist that would give us at least some information?
Actually, there's a hydrologist within the Office of Dam Safety, is my understanding. But I think Morin, they'll only go so far with us making our own decisions. I don't think we would have much support from that.
Mhm.
And it may not be honestly an unbiased opinion from them, because they need to get that dam straightened out.
Mhm.
So that's
Well,
kind of how I feel about
Well,
that.
it's very University of Massachusetts does have a hydrology department, but whether or not they have the wherewithal and so forth.
I would say that would have to be within DEP. I can check.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will.
They're back in
Email
session.
John.
They're back in session, I think, this week.
Yeah.
First time for UMass. So I've been unable to get the hydrologist who heads the department, and whether they do some student outreach or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I did reach out to the Office of Dam Safety, and they directed me to AECom as the engineers for the project to see what they've done, and I haven't heard back from them yet as far as what would be planned and what's been done already.
There is a smaller engineer down in Sterling by the name of All Engineering.
mhm.
And come to find out, after looking at his webpage, he has worked for Barre before.
We would
I
need
don't
to,
imagine it was anything with our current issues, but
I mean, the tricky part, if it's
But that
not
would
something
cost.
donated by the school,
Right.
we'd have to determine how we're paying for it and
Yeah.
how, there's a question.
thank you, John.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you, board.
I mean, I understand there's a push for us to make a decision, but I just feel at this time, Barre has a lot more problems to deal with than this. I mean, we have a DPW crisis. We have a fire truck that cannot afford. We have roads we can't even drive on. Half my students being make it to the schools. We have school problems, and I almost admire the fact that people are coming in here with so much to say about the dam. I just don't know, I'm not against talking about the dam. I just think we should be focusing on a lot more things right now in our town than some beautiful lake that's in the water that's not gonna affect anyone. You're more likely to crash your car on the way home because of untreated roads than to ever see a flood, ever.
Well, I think we could absolutely talk about some of those things in public comment section.
About time.
Well, anytime someone brings something up, we're happy to discuss it, but if no one brings things up, we're limited to what's on the agenda. So,
That's sad.
Matt?
I just wanted to speak to the ballot questions again, and I really appreciate the changes you made. It definitely shows that you heard what people were saying, and I didn't have the time to really offer any written response to that, so I just think you did a great job taking it in without having to necessarily get all the written responses and just make it happen. I think it's very clear, and thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Two things. First of all, I can hardly hear you.
Oh.
Somebody's gonna break their neck coming in here because there's ice out there. I grew up on Williamsville Road. My name is Bridget Bullitt the Chance. That place has been there and given pleasure to so many people. The dam isn't hurting anything, they should fix it. Leave it alone. That's wildlife. People go down there, they walk down there, they pick flowers, they enjoy the island. I remember my grandfather rowing me out to that island and looking around. We played, we swam in it, even though we weren't supposed to probably, as kids will do.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the problem is. They want to change it, take it down, and then screw everything up. And as you know, I'm obviously voting for the yes thing here and against touching anything.
Thank you.
Yes,
In regards to the actual question, I really feel the most, in the vote yes section, I mean, I know that we can't really put in there estimated costs, but really, as someone coming in and knows nothing about this, they're gonna look down and go, what does that mean for me? They don't care. So, and I gotta tell you, we have high taxes anyway, so I get this, but when you look at numbers and over the 5-year thing you're talking about, it's like pennies to like an actual taxpayer. So I guess that's what I like to see, is if you put in an estimated cost of what it actually costs, because that's a huge deal.
That could be in
That's
the-
what people care
yeah,
about.
that could be in the voter's guide,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. And actually, we are, we'll just touch on that real quick because we are still working on getting numbers for that. So I know, Tammy, you were in contact for insurance.
Yeah, I did reach out to our insurance representative, and he said in order for our insurance company to get a price, we need to get engineer report, and if the DM is feeling that is something that Maya would not cover, he's gonna look into the open market and see if there's any other options he can find
Well, what-
to
Yeah,
see.
so obviously after it's reconstructed, after, if we take possession, it wouldn't be failing or
Yeah.
anything
Right.
like that. It would be newly constructed or repaired. But they're pushing back on giving us a price, it seems. Okay.
Yes.
And again, the cost, they need to take care of the DPW. And we also, like I said, I just found out about this meeting, I hope you give us notice when they're gonna have the big one,
Mhm.
a bigger, timeframe.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm in my pajamas at 20 minutes to 6 and found out.
Well, thank you for joining us. I think they're also going to be talking about this at the planning board at 7 PM. That's why we moved it up early tonight, so that if some people would like to, when they wanted to go to the planning board and listen to their conversation about it as well.
The
Planning board.
The planning board at 7 o'clock will be discussing it.
Where's that?
That's on the third
Just
floor.
upstairs.
Okay.
There's an elevator right here as
No
well.
pajamas though, so you have to stay dressed.
Yeah, but I'll follow. I can do the stairs.
Matt?
In regards to cost, I think if you're gonna provide any costs, you need to include the estimated upfront cost of
Mhm.
land acquisition.
Yeah.
And the annual maintenance
Right.
costs that
Yep.
come from the various directions, just so it's more clear.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, we probably will ask a few people to sort of take a look at what we put down in our voter information, so that people have suggestions and say, well, what about? Because we're very concerned that people have a lot of information, and that they will make the best decision from their perspective, and that we'll have a real idea about what the community's thinking.
Has the state talk about how they're gonna get down there? I'm assuming to
Yes.
remove it is some big trucks, correct?
Well, what they would do is they would get,
Temporary
access,
easement.
temporary in construction access to the property.
Over private property or over state property?
There's no state property to access it. It would have to be through private
Yeah.
property.
And what if you don't get that?
Well, the state has,
They have the authority through legal means to get the
And what if
authority.
they damage the right of way? Like, what if they damage that? Like, I mean, it's just, I'm
right,
just questioning
so
what-
generally speaking, contractors are obligated to carry insurance to cover any damages to private property, things like that. They're required to restore it to the state it was in before, and then the property owner would get paid for that temporary access at whatever rate the state deems.
But then the town would also have to gain access for the maintenance, the
Yeah.
mowing and the maintenance of the dam. So that's one of the reasons that, as a select board, we say, okay, do we have the capacity to provide that without either adding staff or doing, making other decisions? So when you think about it, we have to say, well, what does it mean to maintain it? And the state can give us a good idea based upon either completely fixing it or, sort of repairing it, or if it ends up just being removed. So at any rate, there's, 3 different things that can happen, and the state has to get access on any of them. And the town has to definitely have access if it's removed, not removed, if it's, shall we say,
If the water remains
repaired.
impounded.
If the water stays there, we have to go in there, the town, and do the mowing and the this and the that, and making certain that it is a safe area for people to transit. And there's feelings, obviously, that we should have public access to the property if we're gonna spend public money to maintain it.
There's a question in the back first, though.
Yes.
I was wondering, on the paragraphs that starts a yes vote,
Mm-hmm.
would it be appropriate and would it be possible that the last sentence, property acquisition, rights of access, and annual maintenance would be the responsibility of the town to fund? If that could be put in bold text, so people who don't think that there's any cost related to one decision or the other would be aware that there would be some.
Well, we definitely, in the voter's guide or whatever, could ensure that that information is provided. I don't know if it would be fair of us to bold that. I mean, we should bold any, you know what I mean?
Well, that's why I asked.
I would say this will be reviewed by attorneys to make certain that we are doing it in a manner that provides everyone with the same, that the selectmen aren't trying to put their thumb on the scale, so to speak. Mr. Kane?
Thank you again. To Mr. Wood's point, you know, say we end up doing whatever we do with it, it doesn't really make a difference. But if there was access there eventually, it would, and this should be figured into the insurance costs somehow, that it would go away. If it's open for recreational purposes, the liability stops right there. Stops. And it's a good protection for landowners to be graced to abide by that state statute that removes that. So I know it's an awful lot to put in there, but I feel as though that should be included too, that the cost would eventually be less. And like Mrs. Madsen was saying, the cost in the beginning was only $15,000, which is probably not 75 cents a piece for us to secure access that would be donated. And that fact should be known too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sam?
I've had discussions with some various people, and some of the discussion is just to confuse us more. So some of the discussion is that it's something that maybe the State Corps of Engineers might be responsible for it ad infinitum. We're always worried about where we're gonna get the next dollar from. And that might be discussed at the planning board tonight. But, you know, we're talking about how much it's gonna cost, and we just think we have a DPW that's now just getting back on its feet. But before it didn't have feet. To have more responsibility, and if we could arrange through the state to have this taken care of the way we want it taken care of, to maintain the fish, and to maintain this, and maintain that, and to maintain the ability to go out to an island, like this young lady was mentioning. If we wiped it off our responsibility and gave it to the state, where it is currently now, we wouldn't have to concern ourselves with it. And we wouldn't be forced to make a decision because the state got a ton of money, they want to use it, and they want to take dams off of their plate. That's the issue.
I have no doubt that if we gave it over to the state, they would just get rid of it.
Yeah.
We don't know this.
Okay. I
We
mean,
have no idea about this. We're just talking about, I guess, conjecting, is that the word?
Conjecture is a good,
Yeah. We don't know all this stuff, and we've been talking about it, and we've been talking about it for a long time. A long time, it's been turned down, and the selectmen want to get it off their plate.
I don't want to
because-
get it off my plate. I want to just make certain that while we're in the grant pool, we are what they call a at-risk dam, that they want to get off their plate too. So what they've said is, we will pay to do this, we will pay to do that, we will pay to let the water run free. We will do one of those three. You people figure out which one of the three. My fear is, okay, that ultimately there'll be a decision, what that will be, and we think having the best input from the community is the best way to make that decision. We make the decision, I don't want to have us run out of the envelope, and then the state says, well, you gotta fix it now, but there's no money.
That's why we bring the engineers come in, we tell them what we want, we tell them how we want to do it. They're making us so frightened that with a 100-year flood or whatever it is, that all the buildings down on whatever street it is, they're gonna be all washed out. They're making us so fearful.
Well, I don't think we're even fearful, as we want to make the best decision for the community long haul. And what,
So we should continue having discussion.
well,
that's all.
my concern is, I just want to make certain that we move in a process that has the money available to you to do the best thing we possibly can. If we decide to completely fix the thing, that's a good idea. If we decide to sort of repair it, that's not as good idea. If we decide to let the river run free from many, that's a very good idea. So we look at this and we say, what we don't want to do is get to a point where we say, okay, the money's gone, and now they start putting, us under a situation where they say, the town has to fix this. And obviously, taking a $2 million or $3 million bill would be very difficult for us. So our concern is to try to move as rapidly as we can, to imagine that the state would, be able to do more than fully fund fixing it, repairing it, or letting go. Seems to me unrealistic, but we certainly could ask, Steve.
How about fixing it, repairing it, being responsible for it? What's
Well-
wrong with that?
Well, nothing wrong with it, but I don't get to vote on that, so
We can ask.
We can
I
ask.
sincerely doubt that
Yeah.
they would,
I mean,
but.
how did the Army Corps of Engineers do that other dam up on?
Well, they created a dam that wasn't there. They-
Well, maybe they work with the same way.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to.
I'm just saying, they created a dam because the flooding that had happened in various parts of the community actually wiped out, okay, most of South Barre and most of Barre Plains, wiped it out. And so then they said, oh, this is a problem. So then they began to say, especially when down on that river, they had, okay, at one time, the largest domestic wool plant, okay, in America. They couldn't even create enough domestic wool to run that plant. They had to take it in from Australia. Think about that. They also had the largest Navy, okay, all the Navy uniforms in World War II were made in that mill. So what was disturbed when the water came down? The mill. I mean, people lost their lawns and houses, but the mill. That's, well, you
When it
know.
involves the military, they're gonna fix it.
Yeah, so they said, we're gonna go in there. In the 50s, they built that dam.
Yeah, so one of my points that's in my letter there was a lot more water in the Prince at that time.
Yes.
And to your point, Maureen, do we, after we have our meetings, forward them to the Office of Dam Safety in a recorded format that they could see what we were doing?
We don't, but we could.
I think it would be a good idea because.
I think they're
It would state.
they're frustrated with us. Fair?
Well,
Yeah, I have-
and to
They're
that
very
end-
frustrated with us
Trying to
because
reach
we don't do,
They haven't
they
responded.
feel like they've come with a basket of money, we can
Yeah.
fix your problem, and we go, well, we don't know how to fix it. And so they're very frustrated. They want us to make a decision. I would see, they don't even take our calls right now, so they're very
took
frustrated
mine
with
this
us.
morning.
I've emailed, I've called, I've had no response,
Yeah.
so,
Oh,
Yeah.
boy.
yeah.
I don't think they're gonna give us a hydrologist. That's-
No, I don't think so either, but,
The state said that they didn't have the money for it yet, like, this is gonna take years.
like, they,
Well, that's the funding pool goes year by
Year
year,
by
so they
year.
need to start the design and
yeah.
it's
But that's the
a
other thing, I think,
process.
a valid question, like, they said it was gonna take like 10 years. In 10 years, like, that's what they, remember they said that was gonna take a long time.
No,
I thought it was in the ballpark of 5, but I can
Yeah.
double check. I'm not sure.
Could I state one more thing to finish up?
Keep raising your hand.
Hang on one second, because was that, did you have more in your comment?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
Sorry.
this guy's been raising his
Oh,
hand.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody here is familiar with Barre Falls Dam.
Mhm.
So when we keep bringing up public access, again, I'd like to reiterate that we do have a nonprofit and we do have state land that does allow for direct access to the reservoir. Now, if we do a dam and it's rebuilt, it's probably gonna be similar to Barre Falls Dam where it's gonna have a stone riprap, not grass, and it seems to be what they do. So when we talk about allowing access, do we need to allow access for people to walk on this earthen berm? Or is it sufficient enough that we set up trails, kind of like East Quadrant Land Trust has done, and work with the Fish and Game to allow access to the reservoir through these other properties that are already state-owned? Because it seems funny to me that if we're saying, we're only gonna take this project on if we have public access. So we're gonna secure an easement for people to walk through private property to go stand on a rock, earthen berm. I mean, just to be clear, what we're building, it's gonna be an earthen berm, probably covered in rocks. That's not gonna be a recreational opportunity to stand on that piece of land. The recreational opportunity is for the water, and there is direct access through private, nonprofit, and state property to access the water. So I just wanna make that really clear, 'cause it seems like we keep pushing for access to this earthen berm that's gonna be
what we would need access for is equipment to get in for maintenance.
No, I understand that, yep.
That's the bigger issue. That's the more of a mandatory thing. Access, public access, where public could go and enjoy it and be recreational, would be a huge benefit if that's an option. But the more strict priority would be for equipment to get to, for example, keep trees from growing on it.
No, absolutely, I
And
understand that.
pulling it
Yep,
apart
I
through the
understand
roots.
As far as the recreational opportunity that keeps getting mentioned,
Mhm.
and they say access for recreational opportunity. And I just seems like it's overlooked that there is existing right now public access. But, so that's just one point. The other thing too is,
See, the thing that is, we're not taking a position on what to do.
no, I agree.
Okay.
It's a point that keeps getting made,
It-
that
it-
they wanna make sure that we do secure public access.
Have it.
But that'd be like saying, I need to find $10, but I already had $10.
Yeah.
Like, it's already there. I'm not good with making those references.
Everyone understands not,
But-
there is.
So the other thing too is, are we gonna be receiving more information? Because there is quite a bit that's unknown. And have you reached out to any other towns that have been in the same situation or are currently in the same situation that we're in to see what their history is?
Well, I know we had that individual in here at our last meeting, I believe.
The
Yes.
lady?
Who talked a little bit about some of the towns that she's been involved with and some of the different strategies that other towns have employed. From the communities out in the western part of the state, which seem to be a little further along with some of this dam removal stuff,
Yeah.
there seems to be a far greater emphasis on removing the dams. And I would say that there's probably some input from the state level where they are feeling that, whether they want to just be working with Fishes and Games or whatever, but they look at removing the dam as a very positive option. They do not look at that as a negative option. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about what basically they talk about, because.
And for this specific program, it is a pilot program. I believe there's 6 communities involved in it, so none of them have advanced beyond design at this point,
So I
as
guess
far
to
as I understand it.
follow up, so I've reached out, I think it's Ashland and Gardner. And Gardner has removed dams, and I believe that there's also preserved, so he's gonna be sending me some information
Good.
on the history.
Good.
Ashland, I reached out to an individual there, he's incredibly enthusiastic, they decided to save their dam.
Mhm.
It seems like it's pretty much same stream flow, similar size, same overall capacity. And they saved it because of a recreational opportunity. And so far, he's gonna try to figure out the numbers. But he's saying it's very cost effective, roughly $2,000 a year goes into a coffer. There's an organization that he's part of that manages it. They manage the dam for recreational and also stormwater management. And considering the severe weather we're having in the past, he's actually lowered the dam, the water level, to add capacity for future storms. He has to do it manually. But just curious if you've ever had any outreach to any of these towns, because the lady that came in, I mean, she's certainly unbiased. She's strictly for removing dams. And a lot of the information she gave as far as providing natural habitat, and if we remove the dam, the beavers come back in. I'd also like to make a point that there is a lot of positive literature about the positive effects of beavers coming in and habitating these areas. But they don't talk about the life cycle of beavers. And I mean, you should reach out to DPW and see how much money we spend annually
A lot.
removing beaver dams.
A lot.
So the process of a beaver dam would become into an area, they dam it up, and then once the food source behind the dam that they flood is removed, they abandon the dam. And then the dam's breached through just decay, and you're left with a pretty fertile plain where the vegetation comes back, the beavers come back, and we have it. Now, if you look at where is it? The basin above is, it's 1,233 acres up above. So if you're gonna take an inch over that basin, you get, let's see, 1,233. So yeah, on a, so for a 5-inch rainstorm over 24 hours, you're gonna get 259 cubic feet per second coming down that river for that 1,233 acres. So this is one of those things that you're gonna have a massive wall of water coming from the wetland above, flowing through there. And if you look at the topography coming down in Allen's Foundry, there's no floodplain between this and that. So that water is gonna come down pretty well unchecked. And that's another thing too, that we do need a hydrologist, not only to study the aquifer, but to also see what kind of stormwater management we're gonna need to manage this unchecked water that's now gonna be present. And I just think the liability and the cost of maintaining beavers in that area is probably gonna far outweigh a couple $1,000s annually. So there's a lot of costs we need to look back and forth. And a lot of this too, when they talk about stream, rewilding the streams, they're also talking about rewilding the floodplain. Like that lady's comment, she says that when you remove the dams, there's additional capacity. Well, that additional capacity is based on topography. And I really encourage everybody to look at the topography below the old reservoir. It's a narrow channel down to Allen's Foundry, and a narrow channel down to where the old gravel pit was, where there's somewhat of a floodplain. It goes back to a narrow channel until it gets down to South Barre. So all this water is gonna be forced into that channel above Allen's Foundry, where it's gonna blow out on Allen's Foundry lawn without a dam. And then it's gonna be restricted. So a lot of this comes in a two-part system where they remove the dam, they restore the natural stream channel, but then they also restore the floodplain. And there's a lot of places too where they're saying they're removing development, stopping development in the floodplain. So that would be like saying go down to South Barre and start telling these individuals we're no longer offering building permits, and we're gonna give them 15 years, and at that point, we're gonna start taking houses by eminent domain. And that's not theoretical. This is what a lot of cities are doing to manage these major rain events. The same thing with the fires. It's the equivalent that if you can't control the fires, you control the development. If you can't control the flooding, you control the development. So there's a lot of parts that go to this, and I think coming back to the rewilding aspect, removing the dam is only one part of the management. The other part is the floodplain, and that's South Barre. And I don't think anybody's suggesting that we're gonna start removing houses from South Barre. So I think we need somebody to analyze how much water is coming out of that basin and what it's gonna take to manage it properly. So that's just one comment that I keep thinking people need to understand that, because that's a major liability. And we haven't had anybody address these issues yet. And the people that keep coming, they keep talking about removal.
Well, I would disagree with you. The state has not talked about removal much at all. They've talked about the fact that it is a high risk.
Yep.
Now, some people say that term has not been used by the state of
High
late.
hazard.
Okay, high hazard dam. Okay, so they've written, and if they're, I don't know, we published the report for people to look at, where they talk about what could happen if the dam failed.
Yeah.
And they talk about, houses that are damaged and so forth. People who live there say, that is nonsense. That is nonsense. There's not that much water in there, that couldn't possibly happen. I'm just telling you what
Yeah,
people
no,
basically say.
exactly.
And when we got that high incident dam report and so on and so forth, we had an individual who was an interim, town administrator,
Yeah.
Greg, Balakonis, and Greg was absolutely basically, he said, get rid of the damn thing. What do you need it? No pun intended. Don't mess with this. If this happens, and we've known it could happen, and we haven't taken action to remove it, shame on us. That was his position on this, and obviously, that was the information he gave us. That's certainly, that's the dam report from the state. And they supposedly have the experts to say, if that dam fails, I tend to agree more with some people who live up on there, and it doesn't seem like that is as big a deal as it
It's
seems.
not.
But that's what they say.
Yeah.
If this dam fails, this will happen down, stream. And so they made no bones about the fact that this was high incidence and hazard, and they were very concerned about it. So that's the first group of engineers that came here to discuss this with us. That was their position, which was basically do A or B. Don't leave it like it is.
But-
Matt, I know you've been looking back there for a question.
Yeah, based on my understanding, and I have walked the Prince River as well, all the way from pretty much North Lane access all the way up to the dam. Currently, it looks like a channel because it's a river. But when it floods, the banks along most of that stretch go almost 50 feet in each direction without going up very steep. You got spots where maybe it's gotta take a whole foot before it gets to that point. Sometimes you're only 6 inches from that. But when we're talking about floodplains, those are the floodplains. It's just, there's no water to reach them right now. And secondly, if the dam isn't there, the amount of water coming down is not equivalent to the current surface area. Because where the river channel is recreated above the dam, everything beyond that now becomes another floodplain to absorb the water so it doesn't race down like it was a big reservoir. So just environmentally, when it talks about the amount of water, really what we're talking about is how much water comes in through like Hemingway Pond and the other feed up through the Gilbertville area. That's how much is gonna come out, pretty much. Gilbert Road, I'm sorry, I always lose. But what I'm really trying to get at is, from my perspective, okay, this isn't about environment, because both of them have good and bad effects on the environment, however you want to look at it. It's about recreation and the cost to the town to support that recreation. And history, experience and history. It may, yet it's still not even known yet, because we haven't gotten the math and the engineering, potentially affect some of the private wells around it. It's very unlikely to affect any of the town wells or the aquifer because of the location and the elevations. That water's not making it where our wells are necessarily.
Oh, yes.
But I've looked at the aquifer maps, Bob. I'm just saying, nobody mathematically is gonna say the amount of earth it's gotta go through is gonna make it over there to affect our well depth compared to all the other water already going into our aquifers. In other words, what they're saying is it's maybe 1% of the total intake to our aquifers, thus they're not gonna calculate a big impact to the town wells. This is my opinion, okay, I get it, we don't have the numbers. But I do see it could affect some of the local wells, and we don't have town water even up to my street, let alone all the way up Williamsville. So it should be considered, and I do expect it's part of the permitting process that'll happen. But what I'm really, in a nutshell, and this is not me trying to choose a side, because I have no real, I don't have the history, and I respect the history that comes with it. But I also don't have a preference, because until just recently, I've been told, but I still don't know where it's at yet, because there's no signs that I could find, how I could get a kayak in there. Because other than that, I can hike all through Prince Rupert. That's not a special hike, is my point to me. If I wanted the reservoir for recreational purposes, it's because I want to get on the water. And that's all I'm saying, and I don't know where that is. I've been recently told there is a way, so I'm not denying it. I just don't know the way yet.
Is it the East Quabbin Land Trust land, is that the
No,
way?
I've been told it's somewhere up in the Wildlife Fish and Game has some potential access road. I just
Okay.
didn't know of it, and I'm not even sure when I drive down Flaherty where their property begins. So it's just an area I haven't driven yet.
It's right about at the end of the 800-foot of town road frontage on Flaherty Road. Actually, it ends up at two hickory trees, and the trail is right there that goes down to the
Pimental
bottom.
Place, between the Pimental Place and Flaherty Road.
So I'm just saying, for me, I don't even, because I didn't know about it, I don't even have my own history of using it, like with a kayak, which is something that we do a lot, and we hit the Ware River and other places where the river will allow it.
You'd love it.
And, well, I know I would love it, because I love peaceful, quiet,
If you
without
like the
motorboats
nice-
type places,
It's a nice
so.
long walk down there, there's
So
all kinds of
what I'm
things
really
to see.
trying to get at is ultimately, it's more the recreation history versus the finance and those that really like rivers. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying these are just two opinions that I think summarize the gist of the challenge we're dealing with. And I respect it, but we just gotta be very clear and make sure that we're saying things accurately as we go through the process, because it will turn into things that are, and I'm not saying it is intended this way from either side, but someone will start to bark it's fear mongering, or someone will start to bark that it's, something that maybe it's more than it really is, because I get it. Not all our questions are answered, but I think we just gotta check ourselves a little bit in how we express ourselves. Just to be clear, that's all.
One thing we know, we're gonna be damned if we do and damned if we don't, I got it.
Yeah.
Because it's not an easy answer to this. And certainly, the select board sits here and says, well, ultimately, we have to put our hands up. I guess we're the official body to do so. And it's a very difficult decision to make, because every time I hear, Mr. Kelly talk, and I hear Sting, there's all sorts of things we would like to continue to investigate before making the decision. My fear is to walk away and not have, and be stuck with a high risk or high incidence dam, whatever it's called.
Right.
Would make me a little nervous to have left the town without a solution when we had a solution that could have been paid for. So anyhow,
So,
Again, with the high hazard is in relation to the water coming down and the impoundment. And again, the number that was given was 16-inch rainfall event in a 24-hour period. And the hurricane of 83 or 85, was it? That was a 20-inch rainfall event in a 48-hour period, which is the greatest rainfall event recorded in Massachusetts. They had 4 to 6 inches like a week prior, so that saturated the ground, and then that 20 inches. So again, with his number of 19 inches in a 24-hour period, to say that they're not trying to fearmonger us, their numbers need to be realistic. And again, I mean, coming back at my numbers, like I got a picture here, because the Prince River doesn't have very much data. It's actually just kind of a little picture. And I think it's either 14 or 19 inches cubic feet per second. So again, if you calculate the basin up above, and if you figure you got a saturation event, so you got 1 inch of rain falling on that basin, and eventually it's gonna go downstream. And that's where somebody needs to do the numbers. Because we need to make sure that either way, dam or no dam, that water is eventually gonna come down through this area. And that's why they do stormwater management. And when they do calculations for new development, they always contain the water. They never just, they don't create a 12-inch pipe and just say we're gonna streamline it out. So I think that we really need to consider the stormwater management that's been going on from this facility and make sure that that's, thoroughly investigated. Again, getting back to the beavers, and then if we do remove the dam and beavers come in, are we gonna be up there doing regular maintenance on beavers or neglecting it and then just creating another liability? So
okay.
I think
Joey,
we
did
need
you
to
have a
look at each
question?
other towns and see.
I would just say to you that when the engineers from the state come in, they have a book like this.
Yep.
Okay, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to review it in any detail, but some of the questions that you've had and posed, are probably discussed in there. Probably you've done it, Mr. Kane. You're my bookworm friend.
Yes.
I mean, it's at least this thick. And we can, certainly make that available through the public
That's what I mean.
library.
We need to make sure that we have that information before we make the choice, because we don't want to make a choice one way or the other, and then realize down the road that we have to, now we just gave away a multi-million-dollar stormwater management facility, and now all of a sudden we're getting storm surges downriver, and we wish we would have kept it. And I think there's a lot of liability for giving us away, and there's not much liability for keeping it.
Joy?
I have been trying to get the information, but the ACOM is not answering. Tammy's trying to help me get the information too. But in my research, there's a stringent permitting process when they get permission to do dam removal. And all of these things like hydrology studies, will it affect wells, what is going to happen with the sediment, all of that is part of that. But they don't get to that part until they get a go-ahead to do it. So there could be a lot of these things that would be covered, and they wouldn't be allowed to do it if it was going to negatively affect wells. So that's where I wish Jennifer would be better at answering us.
Yes, and I also left a message and I haven't heard back either, so,
Yeah, I haven't heard back from her either.
Most
No,
everyone that
unfortunately.
has to do
yeah, I'm gonna try
well
again.
dam removal has to go through this rigorous process.
Mhm.
I just had one quick
Okay,
question on
quick one.
follow-up to the Jennifer ACOM thing.
Yep.
Who's managing their contract with the state? Because ACOM has no requirement to answer someone from the general public ever as a contractor.
Yeah, so that goes.
You have to put that directly to the person managing their contract and force them to answer it. And if you have to, you give them a FOIA saying, have you asked? And what is the process?
Yeah.
Because ACOM will never answer anything that is just a potential political nightmare.
Well, it probably is
Yeah,
why
so,
they
and so
do it.
far,
That's probably
Office of
the
Dam
best.
Safety keeps directing us to AECom, and AECom, I think
It's circling
we need to,
around, but then
right.
just send the FOIA to Office of Dam Safety. What is the permitting process in this? so we can make an appropriate decision.
Mr. King?
Thank you. And, you know, I suppose we were just referring to the 2020 report for a minute. And the huge problem for us to be able to accept that is, what should happen is, a lot of us can't get away from the fact that they did it on the capacity of the old dam, which was, like Lloyd said, so much more than it's actually holding now. And to Matt's point about eventual public access, I kind of feel as though that would take care of itself if we had public access. If we ended up with kayak access.
Dan?
Yes.
I just had
Yeah.
a question.
Mhm.
The residences around this body of water, are they required to have flood insurance?
I would suspect that's up to the.
No.
Well,
You would think I would be a huge risk, but no, to answer your question, so if it's not a risk for me, it's, I don't know how
well,
it's a
does
risk
your
for
insurance
everyone else.
company know about it?
Oh, yeah,
Oh, it's only downstream.
Okay.
It doesn't fit the national floodplain.
Well, played, okay.
Although my house in Rutland,
You
I'm
gotta
saying,
be
yeah.
downstream of it to be
It wasn't
in the
there.
floodplain, not next to it.
That was a
The people
resource
getting
to
hit
look
would
at.
be Allen's Foundry when it comes to insurance.
Well, I'm not gonna bring it up anywhere it counts.
No, I'm not saying bring it up, I'm just saying is that it's been determined by insurance companies who cover their ass very well, if they require flood insurance in certain areas. And if they don't, maybe we're just being frightened by the state.
Yeah, more important things in this town.
And that's what they do. They got a ton of money they gotta spend, and they're probably told by the government, if you don't spend this much money, we're not gonna give it to you next year. It's all very political. And I think, I personally would like to see the state come in and take care of whatever needs to be taken care of, and let us deal with other things. We have some other things to deal with, more important than this.
And we can take that in public comment. There's lots of time to discuss the other issues.
And so that's just my thought. There are other things to take care of in this town.
So are just so I understand, are you suggesting that we don't have it as a ballot question?
I would take it right off.
I would consider that until we get our shit together and understand whether we're gonna have water, why bother having another ballot question? And ask people questions about whether they like it, whether they don't. We haven't gotten all the information. I don't know what Bob Kane's report says, but I'm guessing probably there's a sentence in this saying that we don't have all the information, and we're talking, but we're having fun talking though.
Oh, we're not going to get some of the information until we give them a direction to start investigating.
Can I make one more valid point, and then I'll try to be quiet? I've just had such an interest in this from the beginning. As you know, I served on the Open Space Committee that formulated the new plan, and it was accepted by the state, and we're eligible for funding for all that.
Yep.
Over that process, it was important enough to the town voters by survey to preserve some of these resources. And we did actually get 10 grand to hire a consultant so we could formulate that plan. We spent that money. And at that point, I feel as though an obligation that's been ignored by accepting that and going along with CMRPC, bothering to spend the time with us. We haven't really considered that in any of this as part of the open space plan's goals. And we do soon, we need soon to show some progress on that, or all that work will go down the tubes because they'll reject the now accepted
You're talking
plan.
about the recreation piece,
Yes.
because we have certainly, put aside through trusts from
Yeah.
various, individuals, hundreds, thousands of acres, okay, that are
Yeah.
now in trust. Okay, that's up certainly off of Washburn Road, there's some 600 acres there, there's another
Town property?
No, it's personal property that is now in a trust.
Oh, I understand, yes,
Yeah.
it was part of the Haas Hills Conservation.
Yeah,
Oh,
and then you've got
Yeah.
another 75 acres add into there.
Yeah.
Up on Route 62, we did 95 or 100 acres there.
Nothing of town
Interest.
land, though.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
We don't have the amount of, see, the thing of it is technically, there's no deed on that property. Technically, the town doesn't own it.
Right.
I guess when no one owns it, the state owns it, because we have no deed.
Wow.
There's no deed to serve. Who
state-
owns it?
Yeah, I mean,
I know a guy that
No
would
one
have
owns
these
it.
rights, and I had suggested, I've talked to him, and he was kind enough to say, keep him in the loop. I think it would be a good idea if the town talked to him, because he was there.
There when?
Charles Nichols Dewey. He's 80 years old, he's in Michigan, still practicing law.
Well, if he's not on the deed, it doesn't help me.
It does in a way,
Right?
because he was there.
Yeah,
And he'll
well,
make the point, and this is important. The reason he sold the land that butts the dam, the exact parcel, he has access to that from Williamsville Road. It's in his deed. No, it's in EQLT deed now, because it's the only road there. It's gotta be that road.
mhm.
And his goal back then, even before him, his granduncle, George Tufts Dewey, was involved with the ownership of the dam. So it's very closely related, and the guy knows a lot about it.
okay.
And his goal, again, like I said, was what we come along as the Open Space Plan Committee sometime later, is try to preserve the open space. So it is related.
Mhm.
I think even if we found the owner of this dam and they were brought to their attention the massive liability, they would probably ask the town if they want a piece of property.
Did you deal with what?
Probably ask the town if they would like a piece of property.
Yeah, I think,
So I
if
think it
anyone,
doesn't
Yeah.
matter at this point who owns the land. If
yeah,
somebody
there's
does
been
own
an
it,
extensive title search
yeah,
done.
It's besides
Yeah,
the
a
point.
couple
It's-
times.
Title
that's-
search of our own, very important.
Well,
I have a name.
Okay, yeah, send it over.
Okay, I'll email it to you.
Yeah. I mean, in difference to the planning board meeting that's
Yep.
gonna have this topic as well, that's starting in a few minutes, I would move to make a motion to place this question on the annual town election ballot.
Would you accept a friendly amendment?
Yeah.
And that would be included in this process, comprehensive voter information documents that are reviewed by our attorneys and provided to the public in a timely fashion.
Oh, and I would amend my motion to this question pending approval by legal counsel.
You accept my friendly amendment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not until we address some of the things we just went over tonight, please.
But I think some of those things can get addressed better once we give them a direction potentially to go in. And when those things get addressed, if the state is doing that as part of their due diligence,
I'm afraid it's gonna be lost in translation, John.
and we can still work towards getting someone from UMass in the meantime, but to have it on the ballot, we need to move it forward.
Well, tell me, is it possible to ask Bob Kane to write the question that he believes should be on the ballot?
Well, he's put together a very detailed information for the voter guide, which Maureen is
Before we go ahead and do that, could you consider that?
Consider what?
getting.
Okay.
I mean, the tricky part is we're not going to have another special election just for a question later, and this is just a good way to get broader
I see-
I
input.
see your point.
It seems like Bob Kane is disappointed the way
No.
that it's worded,
That's
being
okay.
worded.
We all have to figure out how we can bend this the way we need.
No, if there's issue with the wording, like we can absolutely take take a deeper look at the wording. If there's wording in the question itself, I know there's a lot of details in the voter guide, and as part of this, there will be, as part of the motion, there's a voter guide involved.
Thank you, sir.
So are we voting, have a question, like that ballot question, or we're voting to just go to a ballot, we can still revise what it says? Make sense what I'm saying?
We're voting on this language subject to approval from legal counsel, the new version that's available today, based on the input we received from last
So we
time.
won't see the actual, what the finalized thing is until the legal counsel will, right? So we
I mean,
won't-
we'll
You can.
put it out as soon
We'll
as,
put it out
as soon as legal
counsel-
approves it, it'll be out.
Right.
Will we have an opportunity at that point to reject it as,
You can reject it at town
Public.
meeting.
okay.
I mean,
We
if,
can amend it.
It's
Well,
not-
that's too
it's-
late.
It's not
Yeah.
town meeting, it's just on the ballot.
Yes,
question.
on the ballot question.
if legal
We could
counsel,
always write none of the above, couldn't we?
if legal counsel comes back with any structural changes, it's going to effectively void our vote right now to put on the ballot. Like,
And if we
we
send
would
to
need to
legal counsel, we don't have-
re-vote on it,
This town
essentially.
doesn't have money
Like-
to willy-nilly send to legal counsel anything that we want. This is not Jim Beard anymore.
I know.
I know,
This
I
is
know.
the real world.
but we still need legal counsel
That's
for
what we
legal
do.
issues, and this is a legal
Unless we
issue.
just put it forward, and then we can write on this question, subject to the approval of legal counsel. Don't send it to them first, send it to them second.
No,
So
we,
can save
we,
some
we need
money.
to be certain that what we're putting on our town ballot is something that we're legally allowed to put on our town ballot.
Why does it matter?
I mean,
I add, I think this has been one of the more productive meetings that we've had. I appreciate it.
Well, we certainly appreciate the patience that people have demonstrated, because it's obviously close to people's heart, we get it. And, you know, coming in here and saying, you don't worry about this, you don't worry about that, you're just bugging us up there in the dam. Please don't believe that's true. Please don't think that, especially, I don't worry about what's happening at the DPW, that I don't worry about what's happening in the water department, what's happening in the sewer department, okay? Ask me any question, anytime, any day, and you can never say Marshall doesn't care about those schools,
Oh,
ever.
I just wish it was.
You're frustrated, I get it.
Bad time, just to be, I just really wish this wasn't time from now. I just think there's so many more important things that are going on right now that, you know, I almost am like, the passion I see on Facebook, just bashing the dam and stuff. I'm like, why can't they do anything? Oh, there's just so many things.
Oh,
I
they're
think
bashing
we
the
can-
dam, I don't even read the forum anymore, because it's too painful.
Well, they're not nice with the roads either, so don't worry.
Okay.
So.
And I certainly understand, you know, we've spent a lot of time on this, and it is not an easy decision, because it's very difficult to know what is in the best interest of the town, what is in the best interest of the environment. And trying to make that decision alone, I think would be foolish. That's why we say, you know, and I think we have an obligation to put a couple, you know, hearings on where we get people that want to speak to the issues, or we get as many competent people from the state to come down and speak to the issues, because people have to be informed and make the decision. And even that, it wouldn't be binding. There would be, obviously, if this board were to say, oh my gosh, we see this now, and we would make this decision, or we'll delay our decision if something came along.
Right.
Trust me, I
And-
wish it wasn't my decision, quite frankly.
and
I
last
wish you could just
spring,
hold up your hands and be done.
yeah, last spring, there was an item that was intended to go forward at town meeting to put money towards this to effectively do the same thing, but it wasn't a good time for it. And it's still not a good time for it, and I don't know when it's gonna be a good time for it, but we need to move in some direction.
And for future informational meetings, the individual from Ashland said he'd be more than happy to speak to his experience.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
and the
great.
benefits. And the other thing too is, because funding always has come up an issue, and the state does have the Community Preservation Act, which is a matching funds program. that
And I'd love to
Really should get into.
I
And
think we
initially
should
it
too.
seems- And initially, it seems like a tax, but.
But it
they
isn't.
match everything.
Right.
So if we put
One for one,
$100
right?
in, the state would put $100
$100
in.
in.
Yeah.
So then in the end, in theory, we can lower our budget because we're getting money in. And that goes to housing, open space.
Right.
Yep.
Historic. So this is something where.
And
we
many,
have
many of our
allocated-
area towns do it, and
Yep,
it's a
so I think that's
wonderful
something that
program.
keeps getting overlooked and keeps getting pushed
Well,
aside.
then I will make sure it gets on the town meeting,
Yeah,
Like
I know,
Historic district too, right?
okay?
Sturbridge uses it pretty extensively, I
Yes.
believe.
And so does the
All right,
Hubbard's.
I'm gonna go. Sorry.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I know they're meeting upstairs now, so we will.
Yeah. I
Move
would,
on to the
I'd
next-
move the vote.
Shows.
Huh?
Does the charity
I'll call the
board
vote.
shows?
We really do care about it. We
Yeah.
care about the roads. We care about all the things you think we don't care about.
Thank you.
And if I could fix them with
So-
a magic wand, or if I could fix them being like Queen for the day, it would be a lot easier.
What's this
I-
meeting entailed up here?
The
Same kind
planning
of
board, they're
conversation about
at the planning,
More of this?
potentially.
I know
I would
it
just,
sounds like
I would just
fun.
I'll
move,
give it a shot.
Okay.
okay.
Take a vote.
Thank you.
No, we have not taken a vote
No.
yet, so I would move the motion.
Second.
A motion made and seconded to authorize a ballot question relative to the dam, Old Reservoir Dam, on the upcoming town election in April.
Subject to approval from legal counsel and the addition of a complete voter's guide.
Yeah. Those in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Aye. Yep, it's a vote.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Lastly, I would ask that letter, what is it?
Yep.
Be an addendum on the back of the ballot.
Yep, so I'm gonna find a way to incorporate that into the voter guide. That's gonna be the basis for it.
I'll check with Ellen.
You look tired.
Check with Ellen.
Yep, the
Are
voter
you
guide.
tired? You look wiped tonight.
Oh, actually, I don't feel right.
Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not sure what your agenda is, but I wanted to go to the planning board. So I wanted to ask about the cable, TV, and internet access for Spring Hill Road.
Well, we just paid the final payment for them to actually execute and attach homes, so we give you information about the homes. And I think they have the check at this point.
They should,
They
yeah.
should. So we paid the rest of that out of ARPA. We paid the first, they have had a long struggle trying to get purchasing from Verizon, the part of the phone pole that they
Licensing.
need to, licensing to pull the cable. So I think we're in good shape, very close. Now we'll see, now we'll find that people are no longer gonna sign up because now there's, if you go through mobile and other ways, you can get wireless internet, and it's pretty effective, and
Called Starlink, right?
you can do Starlink,
Starlink,
but you can
T-Mobile,
also
there's a
just
couple
do
of them.
T-Mobile. Library gives those devices out so you can try them, and I know most people on Loring Road now could care less about cable because they're all hooked up with T-Mobile.
But it is coming
Yes, it
to
is,
Spring Hill Road.
Mhm.
by what we call matrix, not from Spectrum/Charter. Yeah, so you're tied in with the Peter Sam, group.
Yeah.
That's what they have there. Okay, it's been a long wait, I know, believe me.
Okay.
Okay,
Absolutely. Do you wanna go
Okay.
to public comment or meeting
I'm
minutes?
just gonna move on if I can. Okay, are we ready to move on? Do we have any further public comment?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I was gonna try to skip it, but then I looked at you and I said, I'll never get away with it. I'll never get away with it. What's the blue ribbon for?
Well, I happened to go into a hospital once,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave me this,
Oh,
and I liked it, so I kept it on.
oh,
But I don't remember what it was.
Oh, okay.
It was some affair in
okay,
Boston,
okay, gotcha.
and I thought this has been bothering me for some time, and I've just been sitting on it, waiting and waiting and waiting, but I know that we've had some past problems with the DPW. And I know that executive sessions have come and regular executive sessions. And it seemed as though that a couple of the selectmen, for some reason, refused to believe that what was going on was going on. But they were informed on a regular basis. And finally, Channel 10 got involved in the article about small town secrets. And when Channel 10 became involved, it told me and it told a lot of other people from the Barre Taxpayers Association, which meets here and there in different places, that what Mark Reginas has been saying to the rest of the board on a regular basis. On a regular basis, he's been saying, something smells. Now, this young lady that was back there mentioned something like this, but the board decided to discuss this in executive session. And then all of a sudden, a letter came from someplace, and I have copies of all of this stuff. And all of a sudden, two of the select people, Morin and John, decided a knee-jerk reaction that we need to find out about whether this is right, or this is wrong, or this is true, or this is not true. And they had some ARPA money left, and they decided to investigate Mark Reginas.
That's not true. Sam, no,
Let me
no,
finish.
no.
Let me finish.
When you make that kind of allegation,
let
you
me
don't
fin-
get to finish.
No. I'm
Yeah.
gonna finish, or else you don't like it, call the police.
Well,
So-
we're not gonna go there, are
Okay,
we?
So, I don't wanna go that way. So, you guys, what's believed by others, because you knew what was going on, you were told what was going on, decided to investigate and hire an investigator and investigate one of your fellow selectmen. The guy you sit right next to, many weeks during the year. The guy's been busting his balls for this town of Barre. You're still investigating. So far, I don't know exactly how to read it, but it's been X'd out. 28,000, 8,000, 18,000. So that's 30, 40, 50, $60,000 to investigate one of your brothers or sisters or family, forget about brothers or sisters, or family members, the family of the select board.
Sam,
I
let
think
me
it's-
interject there
No,
because
let me finish, and
he
then you
is-
can talk.
Sam,
We're tired of this attacking.
okay.
You're attacking, sir.
We're tired of this regular infighting.
Okay.
We won't accept this, so this is what we want.
Who's we?
The Barre Taxpayers
And
Association.
they have voted this
Yes,
at a recent meeting?
yes.
Okay, I'd like to see the minutes.
You're not gonna see any minutes.
Oh, okay. Just thought I'd ask.
So,
We want this attack on a selectman who has been doing so much work for this town. We want it to stop. We want the money flow to stop. We want, when the report comes out, whenever it comes out, we want it published in the newspaper. We cannot run a town the way it should be run when the family, the select board family, is attacking one or the other. Now,
So-
if this
let me know.
wasn't true, Channel 10 would not publish it because they would go through it very carefully, because they would not want to be subject to liability issues. So when they publish it on television, they tell the world that there's some sort of double dealing or whatever it was called, then the citizens of Barre would say, well, that's would appear to be true. So what we want in an effort to getting along, we want you guys to write a card to Mark. We would like you to write a letter to Mark. We would like you to show your appreciation for his efforts and stop the infighting and stop the spending of money. Now,
Can I? Okay.
I'm not finished, then you
All
can
right,
talk.
let me know.
Now, we have a town administrator that gets paid good money. I don't know exactly how much, I don't look.
Not enough, but anyway.
We have a town administrator. I can't believe that during this discussion about spending money to attack your brother out here, that she didn't come to you and say, boys, girls, I think it's about enough. We gotta drop this a little bit. We spent $50,000-$60,000 of money that we didn't have. I know it was ARPA money, I know it's
No,
different.
no, I'm not saying that at all.
I'm just saying, we spent a lot of money because someday, excuse me, I'm gonna get bigger wide. Someday, people like Mark Reginas, who does so much, is gonna say, I'm tired of your bullshit, screw you, you don't have my services anymore because there's no appreciation. The thought of a board investigating another board member, spending big money to do this, is beyond my thought process. You wanna talk?
All right,
And I've said as much as I can do.
first
So
and
I-
foremost, look, I'll be the first one to say Mark has done great things while he's on this board. He's carried a lot of projects. No one's saying that's not the case. All right, if there's an investigation, that is something that we legally cannot talk about and discuss what it's about. I think it's a huge stretch to say that any investigation into Mark would be about someone else double dipping. I don't think there's a connection there. I'm not sure where that's coming from. But if there are allegations from, in certain situations, the board is obligated to investigate. That doesn't mean that we pick a side that, it doesn't mean that I think Mark did or didn't do it. It means that we have an obligation. Right? We're not brothers and sisters. We are representatives of the community. Right? I can talk to other people in the community. I can't talk to them. I'm not close to either of them.
Thanks.
Well, I mean, that's part of the requirement for this. So my job is to represent the taxpayers and make sure that things are being done the right way. If there are accusations posed and they need to be determined if they're credible or not, then that needs to be the case. But if there's an investigation, it's not something we can talk about in open session. If allegations were made by town employees, we can't say right now in open session who made those accusations. If there was one, if there were multiple, we can't say that because we have to.
Everybody knows about
No,
who and why.
I
and when
genuinely
and where.
think that most people, the vast majority, do not know the names involved in this situation. Maybe you can guess at one of them.
By the way, one of the reasons I came forward, and just as well as the people on behind me, is I wanted the folks in television land and wherever they listen to this, to see what goes on here. And, if we were to subpoena records, executive session records, if there's a way to do it, I'm sure he told you what was going on at the DPW and you guys wouldn't believe it.
Sam, I was the only one who called for the resignation of the former superintendent. What do you mean I didn't believe it? That has nothing to
Then
do with
why'd
the
you give him
situation.
12% raise?
Well, it was
Why'd you
after.
give him 12% raise?
It was after that I called for the resignation when we found out
But
he had
you
another
knew
full-time
about
job.
it. You knew about it.
I didn't know he had
I
a-
don't want to have a big discussion. I'm just saying, clean up your act. Be respectful to the rest of your people who work for us to operate this town.
It would be disrespectful
I'm
for me
so-
to leave that liability on
I'm
him and
so-
not have it properly
I'm so
investigated.
thrilled that you guys have had multiple discussions about the dam. Because you've got a lot on your plate here. Every once a week or once every other week to discuss all of this stuff here, you do a hell of a job. And you don't get paid for it. You gotta be more of a family here.
Sam, you are interpreting, okay, decisions that the board has made, okay, that were beyond our legal control, okay? We had issues of concern that were brought to our attention. Mark is very well aware of the issues that were brought to our attention, some of which were put in writing by citizens of this community, making, okay, allegations against you or you or you or you, okay? He's not special, that he was the only one that's having opportunities to be sort of investigated, okay? We are trying our very best to ensure that the rights of everyone, okay, are protected and honored. And that means just because you think you knew what was happening, when it was happening, and how it was happening, doesn't mean you do. It just means you think.
Are you
And
talking
so,
about me?
no, just, I'm talking about the general.
Oh, the general, okay.
The general.
Because we're talking to me, remember, I've been here 45 years.
Yeah, well, so I've been here seven,
You've been here
whatever.
7. You know, after a certain while, we know when something
Okay,
stinks.
okay,
don't we?
but I've managed, I've managed school districts and so forth, and I know how important it is to ensure that people have all of the rights afforded to them under the statute. If we are going to take action of any kind, disciplinary or other, we have to make sure all the ducks in a row, or we'll end up being sued and cost the town considerable amounts of money. There were allegations made against the members of this board, okay? And conversations with our attorney, they said the only thing you can do is you have to put an investigation. That is the best way to make certain that everyone knows that we're above board. We weren't beating up Mark, we weren't beating up Morin, we weren't beating up him, and we weren't beating up our employees. We were very concerned about getting the best information we could from a substantive investigation. Our legal attorney told us that, our attorney who deals with
Personnel.
personnel told us that.
And don't you, after $60,000, $70,000?
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more.
Don't you have enough
We,
to all of a sudden say, we were wrong? We
Hey.
should have listened to him?
listen,
Because
Listen,
guys like,
I believe it.
guys like him, and guys like you, and guys like you, after a while, you say, screw this town. And then where is the town going to be?
well, we're not saying that. We certainly, Mark is going through the process, I'm going through the process, and John's going through the process. I have had opportunities, or what shall we say, I have been requested or required to participate in this process. What did you say, Maureen? When did you say it? How come you said it that way? How come you wrote this? What do you mean? Okay, I've been through that. I know Mark is, I think, going through that too.
No, I haven't yet.
Not yet.
All the money is spent so far, and they haven't talked to me yet.
Yeah.
So
So-
that'll be on Thursday.
Yeah, so at any rate,
Well, I guess I came at the right time.
so at any rate,
So if
our
we,
obligation is to protect the town, to protect one another, but not at the expense of protecting the town. If we are going to be sued, not necessarily by him, not by me, if the town is going to be sued for complaints that probably have little or no grounds, we better be ready to hear the complaint and to protect the town from any liability. That's our job. If it looks like the select board has been picking on each other, that's not true. Now, we have come to get more information about the circumstances that exist in the community, the circumstances of what we did when we did it, why we should have done X or why we shouldn't have done Y. We know that there is substantive oversight right now by the state. We're working with that group, providing them with information that they seek. This is not an easy thing. My job is to protect, protect the community from any huge, non-response. We could sit here and say, I don't care what Mark said, I don't care what he said, we'll just go alone and do what we want. We can't do that. We have to do it right. It's costing us more legal money than I wish, believe me, to do it right, to make sure all of our I's and all of our T's are dotted and crossed. You and I both know, when whatever personnel matters bubble up here or there, we have to make sure we protect the rights not only of this board, of the community, but also of individuals. And that's sometimes messy. And people want us to come out and say publicly this or publicly that, or you knew this or you don't know that, or you didn't believe so-and-so. My job is to say, I'm not going to be reckless. I will never be reckless with personnel. It's too costly. Costly to that person or persons, and costly to the community if we screw it up. That's my position on it. I wish, trust me, I wish the investigation of the board in our actions, I wish it was really cheap. It's not. That's just the way it is.
I know you want to cut it off now. If Mark's the only one who hasn't given input, that's not a very effective report.
Is it possible that maybe, remember now, I don't know exactly where the money comes from, but I got a list here and it says.
That's an ARPA fund.
Is ARPA.
Checked off. Is it possible that when you contracted with this company, you were so lax with the company that they thought that they had an open checkbook and they could do whatever they want and they could make it, I mean, these consultants, you have to tighten them up a little bit. You can't just say, go for it, guys, we have a checkbook that is filling over.
Well, there's no question.
And
that
all of a
we-
sudden,
There's no
it gets
question,
to
we
be
all wish.
way out of control.
Well, I don't think the investigation has been out of control as much as it's very costly. To get the kind of quality individual you want to do the job with the right kind of background and expertise and, you know, legal degrees and so forth, it's costly per hour, it's costly. And I will tell you, I have spent with being interviewed and blah, 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 hours, okay, on the phone. And
And at $300-400 an hour,
Yeah.
it's excessive.
how about $400 or $500 an hour?
And sometimes it's smart as a board to say, okay, folks, we have information, we don't wanna bankrupt the town.
I concur with you, and I know that there's been, I know, John, you have sort of worked with the person because I certainly
We have a
was-
cap on finances, we have a cap on time, it will be over soon,
Yeah.
effectively.
And the thing of it is.
If there's one going, I mean, technically, we really shouldn't be talking about any of this. I mean, really.
This is a small town.
I understand
When,
that.
when John Malis took over the assessor's office, everybody knew it.
Mhm.
They're still talking about it.
I'm not.
No, but people are still talking about what happened at the assessor's office
Right.
and why the assessor's office changed the way it was, because some improprieties were going on.
I don't know about
And
that.
that was so long ago.
Yeah,
That was,
I don't know.
that was when you were still upstairs,
Yeah.
right?
That was, I was still upstairs.
Okay, so
I would,
I just thought, it was about time that something be said, because after a while, good people can say, I'm gone.
hey, good people always do that. Tough people don't.
Excuse me for interrupting, they're asking for you for a.
What are they asking? Do they have a dartboard? Can they put it on my back?
Well,
Anyway,
they just said you're on the agenda, so,
By the
thank
way,
you.
Do you want to say anything to me? I just felt it important
Mhm.
to say, let's get it over with, because good people will be gone sometimes, and then where will we be? That's all. Does anybody have any more questions of me?
No, if you don't know where the blue ribbon came from, all my questions are answered.
No, I don't know what it came from, but I thought it was nice, and I thought the involvement that was because of the blue ribbon meant something to me, and I'm partial to blue.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along, let's go to the December 30th meeting. John, I know you were absent from that meeting.
Thank
so-
you.
Thank you. I look for a motion to accept the Monday, December 30th meeting minutes.
I move to approve the meeting minutes for Monday, December 30th, 2024.
I would second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
We have, Mark, you were absent from the January 6th meeting, so could we have a motion, please, John, for,
I move to approve the January 6th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll second that. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving along, town administrator report.
Abstain.
Oh, sorry. John abstains for.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay, Tim?
I just have a few things. On January 30th, the DPW superintendent, myself, the COA director, and John are going to be discussing our FY25 Community Development Block Grant application, kind of see where our future is going for the town of Barre, and hopefully we can start doing that, get, more projects. They will also, CMRPC, Central Mass Regional Planning Commission, will be conducting a second round of income surveying. So if you see them out there, that's really them. It helps us with the grant funding and everything, so that's why they go out and they do the income surveys.
What date was that? Did they have a specific
They
date?
don't have a specific
Okay.
date.
We'll try and get one from them.
Yeah, but just in case, hopefully people are
Yep.
watching, so they do know that. I signed a letter, so they'll see my name on there with our letterhead on it this time.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll have that in their hands.
Great.
And just only one other thing, and that's just, I'm going to be going to the conference, Massachusetts Municipal Association Conference this week, so hopefully get some good knowledge as to where we're at with our budget, right, Marie? That'll be a good thing.
We hope.
And our fire chief interviews for the assessments are going to be starting on January 29th. So
Great.
that's starting to take off too.
Okay.
One more thing, Tammy.
Yes.
You can probably elaborate on it a little bit more. I spoke with the chief of police today, and he said he's got a community grant coming.
Oh, yes, he
Wisconsin
did,
for $5,000.
I don't have that with
And,
me.
for active shooter training, I believe.
His active
So which
shooting
is cool.
training, yeah, that was good,
it's
yeah.
nice. And then another one he's working on is a $75,000 grant.
He is, he's
Now-
actually doing the community grant, we haven't got it yet though, so I was waiting for it.
Right, but
for
it,
you. Yeah, he did put in for it, so hopefully we'll see what happens on that, though. He did it for us, for Henry Woods and the police station, so it'll be for computers if we get it, so I don't wanna jinx ourselves.
That's fantastic. That's
Yeah,
great.
he's
It's
working
fantastic.
really hard, he's doing,
Is
yeah.
that your report?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I kind of, well, she knew something about it, so I would.
Yeah, he sent me it real quick today.
All right, I just wanted to cover that.
Yeah.
He's doing great work with that.
He is doing excellent, yes.
Anything else, Sammy?
No, that's it.
Tammy and I will be meeting tomorrow with the attorney who's working with us for the extension for charter spectrum in the community, and we look forward to that meeting.
Yeah, we have quite a few meetings tomorrow.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Also, Tammy and I attended a joint meeting with the school district, and they were reviewing with us enrollments and funding strategies and those sorts of things, and they're also looking to revise their agreement, which is the regional agreement between and among the 5 towns. They are seeking 2 members from each community. In other words, they need a member who will be there for every meeting, and they need an alternate who agrees, like on a jury, that that alternate will also be in attendance, so that if one has to drop out, there's somebody who doesn't have to play catch-up. So I would think that we would want to at least put on the website that we are seeking an applicant for that, and it has to be immediate. The position's available immediately, and I would suspect that it is at least a meeting a week, probably for a 6-month period. And Tammy, I don't know if you want to be that representative, you could, but whatever, and then there'd have to be an alternate. So anyway, that would be 2 people that we need to sort of.
So with me having finance committee meetings, I'm gonna opt out of the alternate, because I'm gonna be doing a lot of Tuesdays.
I was thinking I was going to opt out of the alternate too. Maybe I can't. Okay, well, we'll see if we can get 2 people to
Yeah.
help us out with that. Okay, anything else from the select board?
Yeah, primarily working on the reservoir dam question and taking in the
Thank you
feedback
for
from
that, John.
that.
It's been a lot of work.
Yeah, we got the meeting coming up to keep these grants moving forward.
Yes.
There was someone on Facebook who messaged me and asked me, they said they would want to come for public comment but wouldn't be able to make it, just about the roads during the last storm. They were not, they didn't like the way things were done. I know there are some people had some issues, other people said their roads were fine, so it seems like it was some sort of hit or miss. I think, it's the first storm with our new superintendent. From my perspective, the only road I slid on was in Worcester, but I know it varies for different spots.
Well, from my point of view on that, because I do snow and ice removal for the state, situation like this past storm, where the temperature dropped so low, when you're even using salt, that doesn't work, as well. I can tell you this, I used twice as much salt this last storm on my route for the state Mass DOT that I use normally for just a normal, 28 to 30 degree storm. So, I think they did a great job based on what they can use, what they can afford to use for their salt. They use salt and sand mix, probably to lessen the blow, financially for the town. Apparently, it's not good enough for a lot of people, but I actually took pictures of roads in other towns, and they didn't look much different from what our roads were. We have a new crew, and they're
We had
learning.
broken equipment.
Yeah, and we limit, our equipment is
Very
fallen in disrepair for the last couple of years, and they're doing the best they can to get on top of it. And I think they should be congratulated rather than beat up on. That's my thought.
I mean, I don't know, if our new superintendent has a preference on the salt sand mix versus straight salt. I know, from my experience, from what I understand, going all salt can be beneficial long-term because you're using less trips, you're using less fuel because you can go farther with it.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, he inherited the pile of what we have. So
Right.
I don't know, it may be different after,
Well, I did have an
But-
opportunity to speak with him today, and
Yeah.
he indicated, that it was a difficult storm just because of the equipment issues that they had.
Yeah.
And the staffing patterns that they have, and did say exactly what Mark said about the
Cold.
salt and the
about
cold.
the, yeah.
And I, believe me, he probably was one of the people who had written in the thing, because he was disappointed, because he said, your roads are so bad in places that putting any plows out there, it is such a
You can't even-
jarring, you can't even
yeah.
get it.
That's a big part of it, the condition of some of the roads.
But he indicates,
Yeah.
There's a lot of work to be done.
so, but I'm very,
Yeah.
very pleased with his intensity and the amount of time he spent on a huge water break
Yeah,
all day Saturday into the late hours.
I was
and-
there Saturday with them,
And,
and they're doing a great job. He brought in the necessary
yeah,
people to
quickly.
make it happen as quick as possible. It was right next to the river. It was really, really tough situation, and he made the right decisions. And, I think they did a great job.
I
Wasn't
And
there a
also-
break in that same spot last year?
Yes. it was-
No, it was a little bit,
Yeah.
same area, but it was closer to the river, so it was kind of.
Yeah, it was going into the river last year,
Yeah,
right?
they had to
Okay.
divert a small stream, which was, a whole other situation. They put pumps in to divert the stream, and then, there was quite a few guys in the hole, and they were working, and it was cold,
And it was cold.
and it was early in the morning.
Yeah.
They were right on it. They were looking for the water leak at like 4 something in the morning.
And they didn't wrap up it down there until 7 at night.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and,
that's about when I got water back.
and what the public doesn't know is when you have a water main break like that, they have to slowly fill the pipes, so you don't get water hammer, don't make another water main leak somewhere
Right,
else, and
right.
blow something apart, so.
No,
With all that, and back to the snow and ice, we don't use liquid magnesium chloride like the state does,
Mhm.
and that helps the salt work a lot better, and
Yeah.
in the cold.
That's the
You know what I
brine
mean?
tanks,
Yeah.
right?
What's that?
The brine tanks?
The
pre-treating,
brine,
or is that
it's liquid
different?
mag. The brine is a whole different mix.
Okay.
It's more salt brine, and it has a little bit of liquid magnesium chloride, but the liquid mag that we put on the state roads works with the salt, and that's why we're able to clean it up, better than the town roads, but it's very costly,
Okay.
so.
Okay, well,
But
thank
yeah,
you.
no, just a thank you to all the DPW employees who
Yeah.
were out there
Yeah.
working through the water main break on the weekend and then the storm
Yeah.
overnight.
It was a tough weekend for them.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
a lot of hard work from a lot of good people.
I think
Okay,
they're doing a great job.
and anything else on either one? Okay.
Good.
Any correspondence that we have issues or concerns about, see, Tammy? Okay, thank you so much. Town Farm Road speed limit sign, do we want to have a chat about that, going to 25 mph?
Yep, so this is similar to High Plains.
Yeah.
Well, we have the option as the town to designate certain roads as 25 miles per hour in thickly settled areas instead of 30 without doing a formal speed study. It's a Mass General law that was passed, I want to say in 2016. I don't have it with me, but it's the same one that we did for High Plains. So we're looking for that for Town Farm Road. The chief of police, got back that that's not an issue from their perspective. It is thickly settled at either end because we do have a quarter mile where the road driveways are close enough, not technically at the top, but it can still be, 25 for the parts that are thickly settled. So,
Right.
so he had no issue with it. Tim, when they came up at a DPW meeting, and Tim was fine with it as far as DPW goes. Police were fine with it. I think it's a good option there. It's I don't think speed limits inherently change speeds, but they can be, helpful for enforcement.
Mhm.
So,
So we'll accept the motion to make that recommendation real, John?
yes, I would move to set the town speed limit, or the speed limit for Town Farm Road at 25 miles per hour, subject to the special speed the thickly settled regulations through Mass General Law.
We have a second?
Yeah, I'll second
We have
that.
a motion made and seconded to modify the Town Farm Road speed limit to 25 miles per hour as required by the Mass General Law. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, it's a unanimous vote.
And I will say too, this, comes at the request of residents on the road. It's not, I don't think it's something that any of the residents have issues with, from what I've heard from
They'll be happy
anyone.
to see the signs.
Yep.
And
So we'll file that
does
with-
DPW take a responsibility for the signage, or is,
Yep, so
Yeah,
DPW will put together METCD compliant signs for it.
okay?
We just need to file it with Mass DOT, so it'll go onto a database that they have publicly available for any towns that have opted either in whole or in
Is
part
that
into the
generally done by the
program.
DPW department, does police, or us?
I think it'll be done by us, so
Yeah.
we'll just need to sign, I'll work with you on it,
Okay.
so.
Will you show me how to do it too?
Yeah, we'll draft it up, and it's
Okay.
pretty straightforward. It's just
Okay.
saying we're designated this at this time and date, and then the three of us just need to sign it, so.
Is obvious for us under personnel that we are.
Did we vote? Did we take a formal vote on that?
I thought we did.
Oh, yeah, I think we
Yeah,
did.
you-
Okay, sorry.
Under personnel, not unlike the situation where, for example, for traffic control individuals, this year it appears necessary for us to have additional employees during snowstorms that would be plowing. And just to, give you a little insight into why we're doing this, it's because we don't have enough individuals oftentimes to move through all of the snow removal that we need to remove without help from other individuals. We have obviously a contract that exists between the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, our DPW department, and the town of Barre. And this, having such special employees, oftentimes referenced as casual employees, it is permitted under their recognition clause, and it is a situation that is a casual employee in a collective bargaining agreement, as we have, is typically considered an employee who has no guaranteed ongoing work commitment, is hired on a per-day or event basis, and is often excluded from the coverage of the agreement, that's in this case, to the irregular nature of their employment, meaning they are not usually entitled to the same benefits and protections as regular employees within the bargaining unit, and that is clearly stated in our bargaining agreement. The key points: there's no fixed schedule. Casual employees usually do not have a set work schedule. Obviously, you come in and plow when we need you. Short-term employment, their work is typically short-term and is not expected to be continuous, and is excluded from the bargaining agreement. So basically, this is a situation that we have had in the past, and we have generally hired individuals from the fire department at a rate that varied. We are now indicating that that rate will be constant for any casual employee, as there are no benefits for this position. And at all, there's no benefits. And we have two individuals who would be on the list at this point, and would be called at the discretion of the DPW superintendent. Those individuals as listed here would be Jared Markowski for DPW snow removal plowing, $30 per hour. Jason Messenger at DPW snow removal plowing, $30 per hour. This list does not need to be complete. There could be other individuals added to this at the discretion of the DPW superintendent. So we would need a vote, one, to, create special employee, shall we say, casual employee group, and that then we would appoint these two individuals at this time to be in that group at a $30 per hour rate. So I would recommend that we have two votes. One, to create special employee / casual employee appointments for DPW. And that would be something I would seek a motion on.
So before we get into that, my concern is that I believe at the DPW commission meeting, we had approved $30 per hour for vendors
Yeah,
who were coming in.
yeah.
And this, if I understand correctly, is an employee of the town.
Right.
So we're essentially, it's the same rate for someone who has to pay their own tax versus someone who we're paying
Yes,
tax on.
yes.
I don't understand if this is just what was said and this is what we need to do for this year, but I think that's not the precedent we should have going forward in future
Because-
seasons, but if that's what, I'm just trying to understand, is that what we're planning on doing for the future? Is that to get through this year?
That's to get, that's obviously
I mean-
get through this year. Well, the problem that we ended up with is we didn't have a classification,
Mhm.
like, that we could say, we're gonna pay this individual X. What we had was a vote that just said what you explained, that this had to be a vendor, a
Right.
contractor, an outside contractor. Obviously, what happened was, there are some fire department people who are outside contractors. So they were able to give you a W-9 and say,
Mhm.
I'm an outside contractor, and we're getting $30 an hour.
Yep.
Previously, they would get the fire department rate.
Okay.
So all of a sudden, I'm gonna make up a name, okay, John Smith had a W-9, no problem for him. He was making the $30 an hour, and he could provide us with the W-9.
Yeah.
Okay? Then we found out that other people from the fire department who were getting, I'm gonna make up a number, $25 an hour, because that was their on-call rate from the department. And then everybody was squabbling over the $30 per hour, and how come he's getting $30 and I'm only getting 25, and we blah, blah, blah. And it was really just due to a classification, an outside vendor versus somebody who was working for the fire department and as a casual employee for us. So, what we need to do is we need to have a standard rate, because it was very difficult, because people were just, well, I'm not doing it. Well, I'm not doing it. And we unfortunately can't deal with an I'm not doing it situation, I guess.
I guess what I'm just, in general, someone who has a W-9, they're paying their own employment
Right.
taxes, where someone who doesn't, so it would make sense that those rates would be different to
Yeah,
reflect that.
I agree, if initially we had thought about that, because now we have some employees from the fire department that we've already hired at a $30 rate.
Yeah,
Okay, and so the only other thing we could do is just say, nobody's on the list, we're gonna republish the list and see if we can get somebody who wants to give us a W-9, and we pay them $30 and that's it. And I don't believe we would get, the real issue is, they're two on-call fire department
Mhm.
guys, okay? I'm happy with, if we wanna say, we are going to, we'll pay off the people who have already worked for us at a $30 rate, we'll clean it up, and then we'll go back to W-9 contractor and, a different rate, maybe it's $25 an hour for people who are just off the street. Because if I'm an off-the-street retired, because what other towns do is they do it this way, because what they are able to do is they get John Smith, who was retiree from the highway department in Hardwick. He says, oh, I'll sign up, I'll do this, but he's not an outside contractor, he's a casual employer. Now, if we just say, all we want is, our W-9s, there's almost no one out there.
Mhm.
So I'm amenable to doing whatever you think. I look at this season as saying, we have a department that's underemployed, we know.
Yeah.
We need people in those plow trucks.
Mhm.
And if it takes me an extra $5 an hour to do it, I'm ready to do it. However, there's no question that our treasurer picked this up and said, you can't do it. You made the same point you did. So
Okay.
we either have a W-9, and we would have at least one, but there's not a lot of W-9s who already aren't employed by some other town, who are sitting
Okay.
out there, who are contract snowplowers.
Okay. So given that rate, is what was put out there, even though it was not the intention,
Yeah,
um,
I mean.
I'm amenable to it for this year, but I think
Agreed.
it needs to be restructured and
Clean
need
it
to
up.
determine what
Yeah.
exactly that difference is, because it's not fair to someone who comes in with a W-9 after the fact, who's
Well-
not an employee, if they're now having to pay double the tax
Yeah, well, see,
of someone else. But-
previous to this, that was just an ongoing thing. When we published the $30 per hour,
Mhm.
okay, for a contractor.
Yeah.
If you were this person who had, okay, a W-9, you
Mhm.
said,
Yeah.
even though you were typically an employee of, you were an outside contractor as well. He signed up as an outside contractor for $30 an hour.
Mhm.
The guy who was driving the same truck, next to him,
Yeah.
okay, was gonna make $24 an hour
Exactly.
because he was a firefighter.
Mhm.
So there was that big collision of who was gonna be paid and who could be paid and how come they couldn't be paid. So
Yeah,
either,
you
Right, but if
contract
someone's
between
doing-
the regular DPW employees and the
Yes.
$30 nothing,
Yeah.
which is a problem.
Yes, it is a
And
problem.
I was under the understanding that you can't have, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, you might know, I spoke to Jake about it, you can't have a 1099 and a W-2 employee.
That's what he said, but I don't.
I mean, so that
I'm
would.
That's the
mixing up what the
treasurer.
different numbers are now.
Yeah.
Unless they have their own EIN FID numbers
Yeah.
already, which I believe one of, we don't know names
I
here,
think
but
there's one.
I believe one that
One of them
it
does.
does
one of them's
have that,
fine
which
with
they
it.
could fall within that.
yeah,
You
but
know what I mean?
but there's only one.
Yeah.
Right, but now that person's paying double the tax of, so that's just where my hang up.
Well, I mean, the only other
But,
thing
yeah.
is, that, what we could do is, if we could decrease this amount, I just don't know if we can get anybody to drive the truck, but, we can decrease this amount and, go back to try to say an amount equivalent to, and pick some place on the salary schedule, which, would put, because some,
Again, for future years, I think something like that could be appropriate. I understand that this is what was promised this year, so
well, it certainly appears that that was what was promised, okay, because
what,
when we
well,
published.
not intentionally,
Yeah,
but,
it wasn't intentional.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, any.
'Cause it was certainly, in
I
my
saw some
mind, it was
public
certainly
last-
for a
last time, that's
contract
what we-
rate, not a,
Some issues.
yeah.
Um,
So, okay, no, I'm okay making the motion to make the special group, unless there's more you want to say,
Oh,
Mark.
how about through this point, April 1st?
Yeah,
The what now? I'm sorry.
This will be gone on April 1st.
That's right, okay.
We will do it
Yeah, that's-
I mean, we could say May 1st,
Yeah.
I've seen
Yeah.
crazy things happen.
Oh, I hope not. Hopefully you'll have a full staff by then too, but,
Okay.
I'll say, let's say April 1st, but you're right, we've said April, but
Yeah,
April
let's say,
1st.
I'd say May 1st, just to be on
May
the safe
1st?
side, yeah.
Okay, we'll say May 1st. Okay, so.
May 1st is probably good, we do get some storms through the early April, some years.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll say May 1st, effective, let's,
I mean, effective when we approved it at DPW, right?
yeah, so whatever that date.
That was, I don't have that.
Okay.
Let's see, when was the first snowstorm? Because we could just have it effective
You
to,
could even use this date,
Oh,
because this
yeah.
was the original.
December
This
16th
isn't,
is when I got it,
yeah.
so-
Yeah,
so you
okay.
can use that date. 'Cause this was the first authorization we received.
December 1st, you gonna say?
effective
December
December 1st.
Okay. And
Yeah, that way it
so,
covers
there would be a
anything.
casual employee appointment, and for DPW, right now, we have 2 potential casual employees, there may be more. Jared Markowski for snow removal and plowing at $30 per hour. Jason Messenger for snow removal and plowing. And we've had, our superintendent has had conversations with the union regarding this matter, and
Okay.
they have no problem with this,
Okay.
especially now that we say it's a temporary arrangement until such time
Mhm.
as we can, fix the rate.
Okay. All right, well, I would move to set the special, or the special employee / casual employee group for the DPW for snow removal and plowing from December 1st through May 1st at a rate of $30 per hour for snow removal.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to set the special employee / casual employee appointments for DPW at a rate of $30 per hour, effective from December 1st, 2024 to May 21st, 2025. You have motion made and seconded, those in favor?
Aye.
And I'll make sure that I talk to Jake about this tomorrow, because I'll be here
Okay.
most of the day, so make sure that we're still on the right page here. We're trying desperately to make certain that we are complying with all statutes regarding these compensation levels, and hopefully that we'll get it squared away.
I move to appoint Jared Markowski and Jason Messenger to the special employee / casual employee DPW snow removal position.
A second.
We have a motion made and seconded to appoint Jared Markowski and Jason Messenger to the DPW snow removal plowing casual employee contracts. They're $30 per hour. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Firefighter EMT resignation, David Morin. Looks like kind of a loss to us.
Yeah.
Accepted a full-time position at Long Meadow Fire Department. His decision was not made lightly. Due to his current pay and financial situation in Barre Fire Department, the acceptance of this new position was his best choice for his family. I will continue to service to the Barre Fire Department as a per diem member, but resigning as a full-time member. My start date for my new position is January 20th. A
So,
loss
yeah.
for us.
I mean, certainly glad that he's, able
Yeah.
to stay on per diem as an on-call.
Yeah. that's
But, sad to lose him for the full-time position, but, I understand Long Meadow, it's, I'm sure a good,
Yeah. A little,
Yeah.
I'd say a little more money.
yeah, so,
Accept his resignation with regret.
yes, I move to accept the resignation with regret.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to accept the resignation of David Morin from our firefighter EMT position in the Barre Fire Department. Those in favor?
Aye.
Right. Okay. We have a common vitulers license for the Commonplace Market LLC.
I move to approve the common vitulers license for the Commonplace Market LLC.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the common vitulers license for the Commonplace Market LLC. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The reservoir dam question, I think we've had enough discussion for the evening. John, again, thank you for your work on this. I appreciate that this is a question without an answer,
Mhm.
and one that we need to put forward to the town for a vote.
All right.
I don't think people necessarily agree that we should vote it, have it voted by the town, but it's a very difficult decision to make without as much input as we can, because it does affect the entire community.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to get some broad input.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, I would move to adjourn.
We have a motion made to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to adjourn. Those in favor?
Aye.
Shut us down.